Hello, this is Katie with Homeschool Chat, and this is part 5 of a series on starting the homeschool year. The name of it is to start the homeschool year. This is what we've talked about so far. We have talked about what do I plan for my homeschool year. We've talked about the intent to homeschool. Let's see, what classes do I need for my child? We've talked about teaching part 2 was teaching a class on different ways and how long, in different ways, not on different ways, and how long should your school day be? Let's see, what else did we talk about? How much time you, the teacher, want to put into each class. We talked about, in part 3, writing a syllabus and writing a lesson plan. Just a real quick overview there. And part 4, we talked about learning styles and explanations like directions and things like that. Now, part 5, we're going to do a class-by-class quick overview of a school day. But it's going to be unusual because we're going to be using classes from all different grades. And I will try to show you examples along the way. We'll also end with multiple students and how as a teacher you might teach multiple students. So let's get started. This is an example of a textbook that you might use. This one would be like a high school textbook on grammar. It's in a backup book. It's grammar and composition. So what you would do is you would set up a lesson plan, and we're going to go into more detail with lesson plans today. You would set up a lesson plan. Don't be scared. You need the title of your textbook in your lesson plan, and you need this information here, which is the publisher and the copyright date or the edition. So you can make a copy of it if you need to, you can write it down if you need to. Then what you can do to make it quick is you can make a copy or you can write down the table of contents, because that's what the book really is all about, right? It lists everything that's in there. So this is English grammar. So we're going to go straight to lesson 1. Now, when we look at lesson 1, we see it's talking about using capitalization, and there's some rules for it. Then we have exercise A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now, if you want your student to do all of that, then what you would do is right here in the table of contents, it shows this is all about capitalization. And it talks about what we just read, using capitalization. That's the first part. If you want your student to do all of those things, when all of the exercises and the lesson, when the student is done with that, you would, as a teacher, initial that, and it would be a good idea to put a date. If you don't want your child to do all exercises all the way through G, like for instance, exercise G is writing sentences using the following: a country, a section of the country, a city, an island, a mountain, etc. Let's say that you don't want your student to do that. You want your student to do everything else, but you don't want them to do that for whatever reason. Then you need to make note of it. So when you make note of it, if there's no room here to make note that no exercise G with your initial, then on a separate piece of paper, you could put no exercise G per instructor or teacher or something like that, and then your initial and the date. So that's how that works. Now that's English grammar. Here is another textbook that is history. America, Land I Love. You would make sure that in your lesson plans that you have this information, the name of the title of the textbook. Then this textbook doesn't have the edition or the copyright, which I don't understand, but it doesn't. So then what I would do is just, we know that it is, both of these books I've shown you so far are Abeka books, which is the name of the publisher. And they also create curriculum. All curriculum is not the same, but they do create curriculum. So this is an Abeka book as well. So that's, if you list that, that's the information that you have. So then, again, you would either write down the table of contents or you would make a copy of it. And in this, it talks about Unit 1 being exploration and settlement of a new land. So let's go through here. So we're reading, and there's a checkup. So you would want your student to do the checkup. Then you're reading, as a student you're reading, and then there's another checkup. You would want your student to do the checkup. You're reading, as a student you're reading, and then there's another checkup. You as the teacher want your student to do the checkup. We're still in the same section. There's another checkup you would want your student to do. And then we come to the Chapter 1 review, which you would want your student to do, I'm assuming. So it's these two sections. Now, if you don't want your child to do any of the, let's say that you want to omit something, one of the checkups, something here in the review, which I don't know why you would do that, but let's say that you want to change it a little bit. You may need to make a note of it. So you need to possibly write it on a separate piece of paper, or you need to write out a lesson plan that lists Chapter 1 as the new world to explore, and then you need to write in your lesson plan, student does all checkups, and let's say checkups on page 4, 6, 8, but not on page 9. And student will do the, what was that, the review at the end. So when you make more decisions as an instructor and want to change things, that's when you need to get into more detail, because you need, if you ever get audited, you need that person to know that my student did 4 of the 5 checkups in all of these different sections. As the teacher, this was my instruction. So my student didn't just skip that just because he didn't want to do it. So do you understand? Now, this is the answer key for that textbook. And so this is the answer for the answers for the checkups. Now, you as the teacher can correct the checkups. You and the student can correct the checkups, or you can have your student do it. I think you need to be very cautious when you have your student do corrections by himself or herself, because there are very few students that will be real honest. And it's not that they're not good kids, it's just really easy to have the answers and to just follow the answers, because we all want to be right? Okay, so that's 2 classes. Now we're going to run through a whole bunch more. Okay. This is an example of a 4th grade spelling workbook. Now, if you've noticed so far, I'm using tangible things. I'm using textbooks. If you have an app, it's designed the way the app was designed to work. Sometimes you'll have an app that corrects the lessons itself. Then you, as the instructor, you don't have to correct those things. But you need to keep an eye on your student and know exactly where your student is at. And you need to test your student every once in a while just to make sure, because you can think everything is going smoothly, but then when you get to the end of the class, at the end of the year, if you haven't been 100% paying it, it's not even paying attention. It's being wise and sneaky. if you haven't been super wise and astute, everything going on with all of your students, then your student at the end of the year can be behind in that class, and then of course the next year becomes more difficult. Anyway, I'm using tangible textbooks and things like that as an example. You can use whatever you want to use. So this is a workbook for spelling for 4th grade. Again, this is a Sylvan Learning workbook. You would write that down. You would write down Spelling Success as the name of the text, or you would make a copy of this, and then, because you're making your lesson plan, and then, hang on, there's a table of contents. Here's the table of contents. And if you want your child to just go through the workbook, you make your table of contents. When your child finishes, you initial. You might have your child initial too, and you put down the date. Let's see, 2 things that are very important that I forgot to mention in the beginning portion. Log books and schedules. And I will go into that in later videos. Let's see. This one is social studies, and I know we already went through history, but we're going to go through social studies. This is a high school social studies, believe it or not, workbook. And again, you need the name, you need to make a copy of it, or you need to write it down, and the publisher, and the copyright or the edition. Let's see. Hang on. Right there. Right here. Okay? And then what you would do is you would make a copy of the table of contents if you want your child to go all the way through and do everything that is in the workbook. And this is an example of what this workbook looks like. There is an economics passage to read with keywords, and then after that there are questions, and the student answers the questions. Now, at the end of the book is a glossary of the terms, a test, and I'm looking for it. The answers. Oh, this is answers on page 43. So answers on page 43. So here are the answers. Now, if a child has this workbook and they're doing the exercises and then they just look up the answers, then they have the right answer. So what you can do is you can take these pages out if you want to. And then you have the answer key separate from the workbook. Okay? And you might have to finagle a little bit because, let's see here. Yeah. Because this portion right here is part of the exercise for passage 6, and then it goes into answers for the economics section. So you might have to make a copy of the one page so that your student has something to finish passage 6. Okay, let's go on to PE, physical education. Now what you can do is you can dress up your syllabus. And you can, let me just show you. I have a more detailed one someplace else, but that's okay, this will work. So what I did was I typed out the syllabus, and the syllabus reads like this. Student will spend 1 hour or more each class day doing one or more of the following activities. Number 1, aerobic activity. Number 2, strength training. And number 3, flexibility. 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes of strength, aerobic, and or flexibility, and ballet 1 time per week. So that's pretty specific. You can actually get a little bit more specific, but this will work for a syllabus and also for a lesson plan. And then you need to keep a log and have your student write down what they did for each day so that you can prove that you actually did it. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Here's one that I didn't put in. I have a literature. Okay, I have a literature reading list, and this is really good enough for your lesson plan because there's, what else do you need, right? So I have a listing of books. So I have Black Beauty, this is for 5th grade. Black Beauty, Wonderful Wizard of Oz, The Emerald City of Oz, The Road to Oz, and it goes down Anne of Green Gables, Kavik the Wolf Dog, that kind of thing. So what you would do is you would have a date next to the book when it's finished, and you would have your student initial that. That's how you would do a lesson plan for a literature class. We're heading toward the end here. Okay, so this is a math workbook. Again, you can make a copy of this. You can just write Total Math Grade 5. And then this is information that you need. It's by School Specialty Publishing and the copyright. Now what you can do is, in this case, you can take the pages out and you can use the table of contents as your lesson plan. And you can then put dates when the child has finished each section, or you can put a date at the very end when your child has finished the workbook. And you can sign it at the end as the teacher. All right, now I'm going to interrupt the whole class by class thing, and I'm going to talk about, no, I'm not. I'm going to talk about life science next. So this is another example, and it's a very quick and dirty lesson plan way of doing this as well. So this is life science grade 6, and it tells when the class was started and what year. So it was started in 2016, done in 2017. And it says life science chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus animal study. Then it says every 5 pages is an activity. Then I go into a little bit more detail. Chapter 2 is 3 sections with a review. Chapter 3 is 4 sections with a review, and you know that every 5 pages has an activity. Then it goes through chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7. Chapter 7 has 3 sections and a review. So as long as you're following this, this is a lesson plan. And it says when you began the class and when you ended the class, when the class was done. All right, this is where I thought we were at, and now we're there. So this is an example of a schedule, and I really didn't want to get into schedules too much, but if we're doing a class by class example of lesson plans and your class day, I want to give you an example of a class day schedule. So here is an example. So this says you start the day, this is the student's schedule, so I'll just read it to you. Starting the day with literature for 45 minutes. There's a 15-minute class after that. After that, math is 1 hour. English after that is 30 minutes. Religion is 45 minutes after that. Exercise is 1 hour after that. And in this example, I actually put the time of day that my student would be doing these things. That's not necessary, but that's what I did because it worked well for me. And lunch is 45 minutes, and I put walk dog 1 hour. That's actually part of PE, and it was a good time to walk the dog. I needed to do it, and my child was young enough that I didn't want to leave her in the house, so we just made it a class. Recess was 2 hours, spelling 2 hours, Spanish 30 minutes, piano 30 minutes, and then the time the class ended. And that is an example of a class day. So that is about all I have for today. I know it was a little bit involved, so, but I hope you got a lot out of this, and I hope that you have a really good day. Have a blessed week.